This is Rabbi Robert B. Holman Jr. and
The Junior Rabbi Shawn Appleton, and this is Hebrews in Exile.
It's another day that the Most High has blessed us to be able to sit in front of these microphones and to share with you the things that's on His heart that He has placed on our heart.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking today, the difference between what we do and what the majority of other people do that are in our position. We take the time to expositorily explain text, the Father's Word, without embellishing it. We might add a lot of antecedents and a lot of things to clarify a point, but we don't take the text out of context, spiritualize it, and make it something that it's not.
Right. When we present a text, it is, and we will preference, hey, we're getting out on our own. Right. This is our own opinion. Mm-hmm. There may be some gaps that's in here that need to get filled in here, but even in filling in the gaps, we try to use what a good lawyer would do, which is precedent, in order to establish a point. Mm-hmm. And it's not to say that, that is the end all be all. We know that when we get into the land, there's certain things that we expect to be taught in order to be clarified.
Right.
When we get there. So
right.
It's a beautiful thing to be able to like you said, with the expository teaching,
and
reveal that to people.
Yeah, the Most High has given to us this ability to clarify His words for the sake of the hearing of His people. And I thought about it, and I go, I guess it kind of still bothers me that we have such a low viewing and or following body of people. But then I realized that the largest population of people in religion don't really want to know. Or if they don't want to know, they don't know what to know about what they want to know.
Yeah, they've been indoctrinated into this is something interesting. Even in their own, even as a pastor for so long that you were before you made the switch, I'm pretty sure you had the testimony that says, y'all have been coming here for X amount of years and y'all still don't know even about Christianity, even Christian principles.
Right.
It's this lack of asserting oneself into actually knowing the information and the data. You're getting it spoon fed to you every single week, and there's no assertion to know it for yourself.
Right.
And so you get whatever somebody's telling you on stage or up in the pulpit, you're just gonna ultimately believe because it's kind of a generational thing that's happened. But people don't invest, and then that is where the true understanding comes in, because when people start investing time and then starting actually to read it for themselves, which is what we challenge people to do, then you got to start asking questions, and then those questions have to have reasonable answers. And when you don't get that from your leaders and they tell you, okay, well, we just want to be, where was you at? And I think you were at a funeral and somebody said, well, we just want to believe.
Yeah, exactly.
So
exactly. No, you don't, and you cannot shift the narrative to fit an audience.
Right.
The one thing that I've learned and I've come to appreciate about the prophets, and that is they never shift the narrative.
No, not at all. Not at all.
They don't try to make the narrative placate to their audience.
Right.
This is what the Most High said. Mm-hmm. This is what the Most High is going to do. This is why the Most High is angry with you.
Absolutely. Flat out.
Yeah, flat out. And there's no trying to politicize the response or change the response of the Most High. So in essence, the prophets act as an ambassador for the Most High. Because if you talk about an ambassador to a nation, his only responsibility is to respond in like kind to what the nation's position is on any matter.
Sure.
And he doesn't have a personal position.
That's right. That's right. Those prophets are taking, and what we kind of do is taking a look at current day events. The reason the state that you're in is because of X, X, and X. You even do some of it yourself and say, hey, look at the political climate of what's going on right now and how it's affecting Hebrew Israel. And we relate it to text, but the core foundation is still going to be the misfolks, which I need to say this. I got to say this. I got to jump in here and say this real quick. It was something that Sherry said online last week that really I've been thinking about all week, because she had asked a question, and I want to continue to assert that idea that it actually changed the way that I think, which is I have to continually be in a mode of teaching mitzvot, no matter where I am. I can't get into a conversation with somebody, have a dissertation, just like you had said. You have a testimony that says I have to always make sure that the Most High Yahweh is going to be at the forefront of every conversation that I have. Which is, I echo that, but the mitzvot's got to do the work.
Oh, yeah.
The mitzvot's really have to do the work. And if someone asks me to pray, and this happened a while ago, someone asked me to pray over food. And my prayer has nothing but mitzvots in it the whole entire time, because that is what is going to get people to turn and get them to understand the Most High. It's not the banter that we have. I know we said that kind of last week in the last podcast, but it's become so poignant to me right now because, again, the prophets, all they're doing is just regurgitating the mitzvot over and over and over again to people that don't want to listen.
Right.
And that's the thing that gets people's hearts and minds to change. You first start with the mitzvot that deals with the Shabbat. Then the Shabbat opens up everything else.
Yeah. We have done a lot of work and discussion around why this demigod called Jesus Christ cannot be the Messiah, the Anointed One, nor can he be the King of Israel.
Correct.
So, since we've done that, let's look at text.
Okay.
And let's see how the Most High defines his Anointed One.
Let's.
And we're going to start out here in Isaiah 55 and verse 3. Now, I'm going to tell you something. I've got to teach this week, but I don't have thunder. I don't have no thunder.
You don't have no thunder.
I don't have no thunder that I need to hold back until.
Oh, okay.
When it's present in my mind,
you're going to let it out.
It's present in my mind.
Okay.
And it needs to go. Now, one of the things about that is that redundancy is a principal thing in teaching Scripture and teaching Torah, so that we understand. So the repetition becomes a better thing in our eyes. So, you all are going to hear something tonight that I'm going to repeat on the Shabbat when I teach. But we're probably going to take this as far as we can tonight, and there's a lot more to say about this subject. What's the subject? Let's look at it. In Isaiah chapter 55 and verse 3, it says, "Open your ears and come to me." Period.
Mm-hmm.
Listen well and you will live. I will make an everlasting covenant with you, the grace I assured David.
Oh. Who?
David.
David. Oh, all right.
The grace I assured David. Now, you have to know that as we talk about this, that David, as you're very well explaining in your dissertations when you teach from Shemuel, that David is the king of Israel.
Yes.
But he evolves to be more than just the king of Israel.
Mm-hmm.
By that, I'm saying that Israel has a plethora of kings.
They do.
And the book of Isaiah is about the kings of Yehudah.
Mm.
It opens up in Isaiah chapter 1, and it talks about what Isaiah is really all about. He's all about talking about the kings of Yehudah, which is Judah. And of course, you can't talk about the kings of Judah without talking about the other kings that are ascribed to the northern kingdom, which is Israel.
Mm-hmm.
But at the time that David is the king here, as we look at Shemuel, the kingdom is not divided. In other words, the Most High hasn't divided the kingdom as he has when we get over and we start looking at Shlomo and his bungled up mess, which causes the kingdoms to be divided,
To be split,
literally
yeah.
the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom, because of the situation that occurs with that. Because the Most High told him, "I'm going to rend the kingdoms from you
Absolutely.
and divide them."
Absolutely, yeah. The Hebrew Israel is very much intact through Shemuel.
So when we look at Isaiah, and particularly when we look at the messianic writings, when I talk about messianic writings, I'm talking about the anointed writings in which that the Most High speaks about his anointed king or his anointed Moshiach being present. The anointed king and the anointed Moshiach are systemic. In other words, this language that is used to describe one person. It's not two people, it's one person. So when we look at it, and he talks about the mercies and the grace that I assured David, now you have to go back and you have to start looking at and asking yourself a question. Well, what is the grace that I assured David?
Mm-hmm.
Let's go to Psalms 89 and 3. Psalms 89 and 3. And let's see if I can get it here.
Again, while we're turning there,
We're going to start at verse number 1, which in our Hebrew Bible is verse number 2, but in verse number 1, it says, I will sing about Yahweh's acts of grace forever. With my mouth proclaim your faithfulness to all generations. Because I said, grace is built to last forever. In the heavens themselves, you establish yourself. You establish your faithfulness. You said, Most High, I made a covenant with the one I chose. I swore to my servant David, I will establish your dynasty forever and build up your throne through all generations. Selah.
which means Simply
stop.
Stop and think about it.
Stop and think about it. Now, if you notice the text, the Most High says that he is going to establish, I'm going to establish David's dynasty forever. And he says, I made a covenant with the one I chose. If you have your scriptures open, you should underline that. I made a covenant with the one I chose.
I made a contract.
Now, if the Most High makes a covenant, does he ever break it?
No.
So, we can't we can't get away from this guy.
Nope, you can't.
Because this particular text here solidifies the point that there is nowhere in Scripture text where the Most High said he has made a covenant with somebody 400 years off in the distance that comes into existence under the establishment of a European government to make their religion flow and call this man that they created the King of Israel.
Right.
Or the anointed one of Israel. The Most High says, I made a covenant with the one I chose. He chose King David. And he's saying, I made a covenant with him, and I will establish my dynasty. I will establish his dynasty forever. Build up your throne through all generations.
Yes.
We're talking about the king.
Yes.
Now, let's go somewhere else. Oh, yeah, I got to do that. Let's go somewhere. Let's go to Psalms. Let's stay in 89, and let's go down to verse 21.
Can I take a shameless dig?
Sure.
That means, did I hear you correctly when you said establish your dynasty through all generations?
Yes.
So that means you have to be from that lineage of David.
Yes.
And Dr. Luke does not even say that he is from the lineage of. Okay, I just wanted to make sure that we.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't.
Luke never establishes that Christ is from the lineage
of
David. You can clearly see that he is a relative of someone from the house of Levi.
Now let's look at verse 21 in this same chapter. I have found David, my servant. I have found him, and I've done something with him, and anointed him with my set apart oil. I have anointed him. Now we know that the word anointed also is systemic with the word Messiah or Mashiach. So now he's saying, I have Mashiached him with my oil. My hand will always be with him, and my arm will give him strength. No enemy will outwit him. No wicked man overcome him. I will crush his foes before him, strike down those who hate him. My faithfulness and grace. Now we get back to the issue. I've chosen him with grace.
Right.
I'm going to give you, Hebrew Israel, in the day of redemption, the same grace I've given King David. So now he says, I have established, where am I at? Strike down those who hate, and my faithfulness and grace will be with King David. Through my name, his power will grow. I will put his hand on the sea and his right hand on the rivers. So now, when we look at this particular text here in verse 25 or 26, there is a metaphor that he is making there when he says, I will put his hand on the sea and his right hand on the rivers. Sea is always a metaphor that depicts a plethora of people.
Yep. Oh man, I can't wait for you to get down to 30.
He will call me. He will call to me You are my Father, my El, the rock of my salvation. Now, you see, you can't get away from it.
That's right.
You can't get away from the fact that this guy has declared that Iye Asher Yiye is his father. But here, the text says in Psalms 89 and 25 or 24, my faithfulness and grace will be with him. Through my name, his power will grow. He will put his hand on the sea, his right hand on the rivers. He will call to me, you are my Father, my El, the rock of my salvation. I will give to him the position of firstborn, the highest of the kings of the earth.
The highest.
The highest.
Oh,
I will give to him.
Okay.
I will give to him the position of the firstborn, the highest of the kings of the earth.
Come on, you're getting ready to get to some thunder. Come on, you right there.
I will keep my grace for him forever, and my covenant be faithful with him, and I will establish his dynasty forever and his throne as long as the heavens last. We're talking about King David. We're not talking about Jesus Christ.
I'm glad you brought up his name.
And the Most High said, I appointed him. I called him. There is no text anywhere in Scripture where the Most High says, I called anybody but King David forever.
Right.
To be the king, and that my covenant would be with him. So now, understand something. The Most High does not have a covenant with Jesus Christ. You see, I can't get off. You see, every time I come to the table, every time we come to the table just to talk about Scripture, that bing, 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 that red light shows up in our face, and we cannot just skip over it.
No.
Because I have to make the point to you to understand that there is nobody but the Most High El and King David forever. He says here, I will establish his dynasty forever and his throne as long as the heavens last. Now, how long are the heavens going to last?
I have forever. I don't know the end date for the heavens. That was never established, so that's indefinitely. Come on, let me have this. Let me have this next piece. Because I got to say this. I want this piece.
Okay,
it says in 30, if his descendants abandon my Torah and fail to live by my rulings, if they profane the regulations and do not obey my mitzvot, I will punish their disobedience with the rod and their guilt with lashes. But I won't withdraw my grace from him. Wait a minute.
Or be false to my faithfulness.
If you, sir, JC, are a descendant of King David, then why are you telling your people to abandon the mitzvot? This is a contradiction right here. Because you're not supposed to be doing that. If you were a descendant, you were supposed to be telling people to do the mitzvot. Matter of fact, you walk the mitzvot, but how do we get to this idea all of a sudden that by your death, burial, and resurrection, the mitzvot are gone?
Yeah. I mean,
you can spiritualize this in Christianity all you want to, but the issue is when you read it in context and you apply the contextual framework to what's going on over there, we got to use our Johnny Cochran. If it don't fit, you got to quit.
Oh, yeah. So let's go on with this.
Okay.
I have sworn by my holiness, by my set apartness, once and for all, I will not lie to David. His dynasty will last forever. His throne like the sun before me. It will be established forever like the moon, which remains a faithful witness in the sky. Selah. But if you spurn your anointed one, now, here, hear the text. Excuse me. You can't open up Psalms 89, jump down to this text and read it and say, but if you spurn the anointed one, reject it and vent your rage on him, you renounce the covenant of your servant. You can't jump down there without reading the pretext to understand that the pretext is talking about David and not Jesus Christ.
Absolutely. Contextual, expository explanation of the text. That's all we're doing.
You renounce the covenant with your servant and defile his crown in the dust. You broke through all his defenses and left his strongholds in ruin. All who passed by plundered him, David. He is an object of scorn to his neighbors.
Mm-hmm.
You raised up the right hand of his foes and made all his enemies rejoice. This particular writing in Psalms 89 is all about the king.
David.
Get the important part about it. I have established a covenant and his dynasty forever.
Mm-hmm.
Even to the point that it's established through the consistency of the moon and the heavens. As long as the heavens last, and as long as the moon rises in the west and sets in the east, or rises from wherever it rises from and sets, King David is my anointed forever.
Yeah, there's a set of mitzvot that govern how those things transverse in the sky, and they have never broken those mitzvot. That's why we say we can look out and see perfection, because that is what perfection is. It is the observance of the laws that have been given to that particular object or inanimate object that it will not break. So therefore, a testament. You see that moon in the sky? I put it up there.
Yeah.
And it doesn't break the mitzvot or doing whatever it's supposed to do. So whenever it does that, which it won't, make the analogy there to say, I'm not, when I make that covenant. And see, this is the thing. This is awesome, too, about the Most High. I ask people this question. Can the Most High break a mitzvot?
No.
Is the Most High bound by the mitzvot?
Yes. He's bound by his own word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he can't change.
I mean, just like he says, I made a covenant of grace with David.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to make that same covenant of grace with you. When we have been redeemed out of this exiled land, the Most High says, I am going to make the same covenant of grace with you that I made with David.
Sure.
So now we've gone and read what the covenant of grace is.
Yes.
Let's go to Ezekiel, chapter number 34. And we're going to start reading in verse number 23. He says these words. And in Ezekiel chapter 34, once again, Ezekiel is speaking and prophesying to the redemptive period.
Yes.
This is not exile period. This is redemptive period.
Mm-hmm.
I will raise up one shepherd to be in charge of them. He will let them feed my servant David.
David, yes.
He will pasture them and be their shepherd.
Mm-hmm.
So now he's telling us that King David is going to be our shepherd. I, Yahweh, will be their Iye Asher Yeye, and my servant David will be the prince among them. Yeah. I, Yahweh, have spoken. I will make a covenant of peace with them. I will rid the land. Now he goes on to talk about the issues of the land. But this point in verse 23 and verse 24 establishes who and how David is going to work in the redemptive period. He's going to be the prince. That prince means that he's going to be the Most High's anointed. In other words, you have to realize that the Most High is a spirit. The Most High is never, ever, he's never going to evolve into a human being. He's always going to be a spirit that's going to work through a human being whom he can trust. So in the beginning of the establishment of King David as king over Israel, when Saul was rejected, it was at that point the Most High knew that this is going to be my anointed Moshiach forever. Not only is he my anointed Moshiach forever, but he's going to be a king. Not only is he a king, he's a warrior.
Absolutely. And it follows, I want to interject a mitzvah. It follows the mitzvah, because when it says that when you get into the land and you desire to have a king, I will pick the king for you. And everywhere we see, anywhere else where another king was picked, it's always been a failure. But we've already established here that the Most High has already selected David to be his anointed king forever.
Yeah.
But again, there's a mitzvah that's nested in there.
Right. So I mean, all of the scripture text just seems to continue to feed our minds in terms of who King David is.
Yeah.
Let's go to Hosea chapter 3 and verse 5.
I'm noticing here. Why do I keep taking these digs on here? There's so many opportunities for the writers of our Hebraic text to give us so much clarification that if this was somebody else, they should have wrote his name in here.
Exactly.
But they keep writing David's name. They keep writing.
No. Remember something. Remember something. The Joker said, I can only say those things I hear my father say. And I have to watch my mouth with what I want to say. He didn't say squat.
So you go with them S words again.
Squat.
Starts with an S and ends with a T. You can say the other one.
Squat. He doesn't say squat about what the Most High says. He says, when he talks about the Most High, as Trey Beverly and I talked about a few weeks ago, it's been said, but I say. Well, wait a minute. I thought you were going to say what the Father said, but now you're changing to say something that you said. So, I mean, the point being is that, I mean, I can't read a text where it doesn't knock him down. Yeah. You know what it's like? It's like setting up an alley of bowling pins, and you're a sharpshooter.
Yeah.
You hit that head pin and you strike every time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Every time we come to text to talk about something, it's like having an alley full of bowling pins and we're throwing a ball down the lane. It's striking, knocking them down. All 12 of them.
Right. No spares.
No spares.
And see, that's again, I think we need to establish here that our fervent, for lack of eloquence, attack, and that's not really the word I want to use, but enlightenment on this individual is to get our people to come out and come back to the Most High. We always got to remember that Christianity is an offshoot from the Masoretic Hebraic way and lifestyle. It has been established off of it. It picks things out of our text and establishes it establishes a religion, takes our lifestyle and it says, hey, we like these components out of it, and we're going to establish a religion from this. Yeah. Judaism does the same thing. Islam does the same thing. Yeah. We're the oldest, most respected way of life in antiquity that most, if not all historians, are in agreement with.
Right.
But the issue is that we keep pinning this dude to the wall because of the fact that most of our people are listening to these geriatrics all the time, and they're not doing what we talked about earlier, is getting the data, getting an understanding, and trying to understand what this is about.
And I'm trying to understand. Pastors spend their time. Well, I've got to study for my message Sunday. I'm trying to figure what are you studying?
They're studying how to go into our text, pick out something, and they do it all the time, and what we call springboarding. Let's just pick out something. And I'd mentioned that to someone this past week. I'd said, that's the one thing that I can appreciate about FTF versus any other Messianic congregation, versus any other purist congregation, versus any Christian congregation, is the fact that when you come in here, there is an ideation that we are going to open up the book and we're going to study what the Most High said. We're going to study these mitzvot, and in doing so, we also get history of our people, and we also get an understanding of a lifestyle.
Right.
That is what you're in here for. It's like I show up at your chemistry course, and I'm going to learn chemistry. That's what I'm there for.
That's what I'm there for.
I'm not here to hear about your political position about what Trump or what Biden is doing. This is not a political science course.
Right.
This is, and you decided to go in there and pull out a couple chemistry parlance and vernacular to use in there to establish what you want to talk about, which is political science. No, I'm here to learn about chemistry. That's what I'm here for. And people got to understand, and at least what I'm understanding is that people are going to these churches because they're going to hear that particular narrative about, okay, I'm not here to learn about antiquity. I'm not here to learn about a lifestyle. I'm not here to learn about Yahweh. I'm here to learn about how I can be exonerated and go to a moral car wash every single week, act and behave poorly, and not atone for anything or take responsibility for anything that I do. And I want you to make me feel good about it. That's what I'm here for. I'm not here to learn about history. So the idea of what people are even going there for is totally different. That's why we're kind of a set apart people that says, hey, listen, we want to know what the Most High said.
I hear the words of an old sitcom with Flip Wilson, "The devil made me do it."
Yeah.
And, with religion, it's easy for religion to pin their bad behavior off on some spirit that makes them do something, as opposed to taking responsibility for their own actions. When you do something good, you take responsibility. Oh, I did. That was good.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, God was with me, and I did something. Well, and when it's bad, well, the devil made me. No. The same spirit that causes you to do that which is wicked, it's the same spirit that causes you to do that which is good. It's your own spirit.
Mm-hmm. And you have to take an atonement.
And you have to take
accountability.
Accountability for
Yeah.
it. Let's hear what the prophet Hosea says.
Yeah.
And then I want to go to First Chronicles. So you need to pull up First Chronicles for me. Let's start with, let me see here.
So you jump down all the way down here at the bottom.
Let's start with verse number, my knees. Let's start with chapter 3, and we're going to read down to get to where I want to get to. Because in this, I talked last week about how the Most High saw his wife as a whore. And I'm not sure my young people understood the vernacular, which I'm going to have to fix this week when I come back to teach. Yahweh said to me, "Go once more and show love to this wife of yours, who has been loved by her boyfriend, to this adulteress, just as Yahweh loves the people of Israel, even though they turn to other gods and love the raisin cakes offered to them." Now, raisin cakes goes back to, I think it does it tie back to the mandrakes? That, why are you laughing?
because you said the young people don't know about what I may have meant by she's being a hoe.
No, but
let me translate maybe for the young people. Hebrew Israel is having a hot girl summer. That's what she's doing right now. That's what the young people say nowadays. So that's why I'm over here laughing, because we're going to get to this hot girl summer part. Oh, never mind. I'm sorry. I detracted from where you were going. Okay, I'm good. Okay. We're back at it.
even though they turned to other gods and loved the raisin cakes offered to them. So when we read here in Hosea, Hosea is explaining to us the position of Hebrew Israel in the mind of the Most High.
Mm-hmm.
So now he says, talks about this wife of yours. So he says, I brought her back for myself with 15 pieces of silver and 8 bushels of barley. I'm not going to elaborate on that. Then I told her, you are to remain in seclusion for a long time and be mine. You are not to be a prostitute. You are not to be with any other man, and I won't come in to have sex with you either. For the people of Israel are going to be in seclusion for a long time without a king, prince, sacrifice, standing stone, ritual vest, or household goods. That right there, all of that right there is talking about the exile.
Yeah. Agreed.
Afterwards,
Yeah.
now here we go. Afterwards, after this exile and after this period here that precedes what I'm getting ready to read now,
Mm-hmm.
the people of Israel will repent and seek Yahweh, the Iye Asher Yiyeh, and David, their king. Who are they going to seek? They're going to seek Yahweh and King David, their king.
Mm-hmm.
They will come trembling to Yahweh and his goodness in the Akarit Hayamim. That means they're going to come trembling to Yahweh in the last days.
Correct.
Which is where we are right now, except for the trembling hasn't started.
Right.
But listen to what the text says. The text says that they will repent and seek Yahweh, okay, and David their king. Why, if Jesus Christ was the king and he's the one that's going to show up, why didn't the prophet Hosea say that? Because in the words of the music from Porgy and Bess,
It ain't necessary.
it ain't necessarily so.
Oh boy.
It ain't necessarily so. The things that you're liable to read in the Bible, they ain't necessarily so. So the prophet establishes what's going to take place in the last days.
Mm-hmm.
And everything that's going to take place in the last days has to do with one spirit and one human individual. That one spirit is Iye Asher Yiyeh, Yahweh, and the one person is King David. Now let's go to Chronicles. First Chronicles, I forget where it was, 16?
17, 14.
First Chronicles.
But you probably want to go back up to like 10 or somewhere in there and to get to
chapter 17?
Chapter 17. First Chronicles 17.
Let's see.
I believe that's where you want to go.
Yeah.
17. First Chronicles 17. There is no 17 in First Chronicles. How did I get there? Oh, excuse me.
Chapter 17.
Chapter 17. Yes. Chapter 17.
Let's go somewhere here. I don't know where to start.
10? We go back up that far? Somewhere around there?
Oh, goodness gracious. Well, let's go. Let's just start here. Let's do what they do in the church.
in the church.
Except for we're going to explain.
Tabernacle.
We're going to explain as we go along. We're not just going to read and just read on. And let's understand something here in Chronicles, that Chronicles is establishing some things about. Chronicles is kind of a regurgitation of everything that we will read and study in the book of Kings about the kings. It's going to be kind of a regurgitation of that.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. I think even prior to that.
Because it's a chronicle.
Shemuel's, yeah.
Yeah, it's a chronicle,
yeah.
which means that he's going to chronicle some things.
Yeah.
He says in verse 17, we'll start at verse 1 and read down. After David had been living in his place a while, he said to Nathan the prophet, "Here, I'm living in a cedar wood place, but the ark of the covenant of Yahweh is kept under a tent." Nathan said to David, "Go do everything that is in your heart, for Yahweh is with you." But that same night the word of Yahweh came to Nathan. "Go tell David my servant that this is what Yahweh says. You are not to build me a house to live in, because from the day I brought up Israel until today, I never lived in a house. Rather, I've gone from tent to tent and from tabernacle to another." Now, when he says I've never lived in a house, the question becomes one that what house could you build for me to live in?
Exactly.
I'm too big for it. See, now, oh man. Ooh. Okay, I'm going to go there.
Okay.
In Isaiah, the latter clause of chapter number 55, the Most High says, "My thoughts are not your thoughts. As far as the heavens are from the eretz, are my thoughts from your thoughts, nor are my ways your ways." Now, I'm not going to deal with the ways because the way that word in itself has meaning to what's being said.
Mm-hmm.
But the idea of thoughts. So when you think about the Most High and you think about man, he says, "I don't think like man." David is thinking like a man. He wants to place me in a house. I've never lived in a house. There's no house that you can build that can hold me.
Mm-hmm.
In essence, what he's really saying, the whole of creation is my house. I live in the atmosphere of what I've created.
Yeah.
So you can't build anything for me. "You are not to build me a house to live in, because from the day I brought Israel up out of until the day, I never lived in a house. Rather, I've gone from tent to tent, from tabernacle to another." Everywhere I traveled with Israel, I ever speak a word to any of the judges of Israel, whom I ordered to shepherd my people Israel, asking, "Why haven't you built me a cedar wood house?"
Mm-hmm.
Now, when we look at this idea of this house, your mind might go back to the tabernacle.
Mm-hmm.
But the Most High didn't live in the tabernacle. His presence appeared there.
Right.
"Therefore say to my servant David that this is what Yahweh Zavaot means host, says. I took you from the sheep yards, from following the sheep, to make you chief over my people Israel. I have been with you wherever you went. I have destroyed all your enemies ahead of you, and I am making your reputation like the reputations of the greatest people on earth.
Mm-hmm.
I will assign a place to my people Israel. I will plant them there so that they can live in their own place without being disturbed anymore. The wicked will no longer devastate them as they did at the beginning, and as they did from the time I ordered judges to be over the people of Israel. Instead, I will subdue all of your enemies. Moreover, I tell you that Yahweh will make you a house.
Mm-hmm.
When your days come to an end and you go to be with your ancestors, I will establish one of your descendants to succeed you, one of your own sons, and I will set up his rulership. He will build me a house, and I will establish his throne forever. I will be a father to him, and he will be a son to me. I will not take my grace away from him as I took it away from your predecessors.
Who's he talking about? Who's his son he talking about?
Huh?
Who's his son he talking about?
He's talking about Shlomo.
Shlomo. Right. And he says, he's very specific. He says, one of your sons.
Your sons.
Specifically, yes.
Specifically.
Mm-hmm.
Rather, I will maintain him in my house and in my kingdom forever, and his throne will be set up forever. Now, you remember that the Most High said that King David's throne would be forever as a dynasty, and it would never depart forever.
Mm-hmm.
You remember that. Nathan told David all these words and described his entire vision. Then David went in, sat before Yahweh, and said, "Who am I, Yahweh El? And what is my family that has caused you to bring me this far?
Mm-hmm.
Yet in your view, El, even this was but a small thing. So you have said that your servant's dynasty will continue on into distant future. You have regarded me, Yahweh El, as a man of high rank. What more can David say to you about the honor you are bestowing on your servant? For you know your servant intimately. Yahweh, it is for your servant's sake and in accordance with your heart that you have done all this greatness and revealed all these great things. Yahweh, there is no one like you, and there is no Iye Asher Iye besides you. Everything we have heard confirms that.
Mm-hmm.
Who can be compared with your people Israel? What other nations on earth did Iye Asher Iye set out to redeem and turn into a people for himself and make yourself a reputation by doing great and terrifying things as you drove out the nations from before your people whom you redeemed from Mitzrayim. So we've read down there all of the we're going to stop the reading there. We've read the position of how the prophet Nathan speaks to King David about the mindset of the Most High concerning him and his family.
Mm-hmm.
So, the question becomes one. With all of the plethora of information that establishes the anointed king of Israel, the nation, the Hebrew nation of Israel, where the Most High repeatedly established himself in the oneness of who he is to the nation, and how he establishes the man that he has chosen. He said, I chose him.
Mm-hmm.
I chose him.
Mm-hmm.
I chose him. And I anointed him with my set-apart oil.
Right.
Only a king gets anointed with oil.
By the mitzvot.
And the king gets anointed by the head Kohanim.
That's correct.
In this particular case of text, the Most High said, I anointed him myself.
Mm-hmm.
So now I'm going to ask you a question. Oh, you got to watch your mouth. Who,
oh boy,
in the New Testament anointed Jesus to be king of Israel?
Can I answer that? Ooh, this is what they used to do in class. Ooh, ooh. Can I answer that?
Absolutely.
Constantine.
No.
Constantine didn't do that?
No.
When he established that new religion?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. And it wasn't a Kohanim. Who was the woman who went into the alabaster box and pulled out the oil
her?
and anointed him?
I haven't been over there. So I know what you're talking about, though.
It was a woman who anointed him, and she wasn't a Kohen.
She sure wasn't.
So therefore, case in point, using the H word again, how in the heck could he establish himself, even though he points out when asked, they say that you're the king of Israel. He doesn't deny it. He only says, well, that's what you say.
That's true. He never takes ownership of it.
So,
say that he's...
But while he never takes ownership of it, not taking ownership of it is the same as owning it. Because what he should have said was, no, I am not the king of Israel. That's what he should have said.
Exactly. Yeah.
But he should have said, using the H word again, a heck of a lot more that he never said, because he never ever fulfilled the so-called role for his even being established in the first place. And he couldn't fulfill the role because he wasn't chosen by the Most High, and he's not anointed by the Most High. Therefore, he is worse off than the Pharisees that left him high and dry when he said, except you eat my flesh and drink your blood. They knew mitzvos, and they said, oh my God, we're out of here. I mean, we dealt with the idea that you said before, Abraham, for us you were. I mean, we kind of dealt with that, and we wanted to hang your butt for that, but now you want us to eat flesh and drink blood, even if it is a metaphor that you're, or an assembly that you're giving us. That is totally wrong.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So you see, Shawn, we can't, it's impossible for us to sit before these mics, have a textual discussion without once again putting nails in this guy.
It's true.
I mean, he has so many nails in him now. I don't even know why there's even still a discussion. Except for the fact that it behooves us to sit before these mics and proclaim the truth, because truth matters.
Yeah, it does. Very much so.
That even the king asked the question, who is like you?
True.
He restates the words that the Most High has said in Isaiah. Who's like me? To whom do you compare me? I'm the first. I'm the last. I established the heavens and the earth and the eternal people. Who's like me? Who do you compare to me?
No one.
And you know, my whole desire is for our people at some point to wake up and realize that there is not a human being who can die for your sins, and that human being doesn't know diddly about Torah.
Which is a question in itself to me. Can one establish that if he died for sins, then at some point he had to become a man? 100%. Right? Because the Most High can't kill himself.
See, now you're trying to be rational.
That's, you know, and I'm glad that you went there, Because what it's turning into is starting to turn into something very nonsensical and comical. It's like trying to explain to somebody that Superman does not exist. Well, I read this book. It's a comic book. It says it's right here. He says he did all these things. But do you realize Superman doesn't exist? He was made up. No, he does exist. And that's what it's like trying to do. It's trying to rationalize there's no person named Kal-El that came from the planet. There's no planet named Krypton that you can actually pinpoint somewhere in the heavens and say this person came from it. It is a made-up story. But you have people that literally believe it. And that's what it's like, trying to impart truth into somebody who just doesn't want to hear it. No matter how many angles you come at it and say it's just unrealistic for a person to be able to move at the speed of faster than a bullet or to be the man of steel. It's impossible. How in the world do you come up with that? Well, I just believe it because I seen it on TV and I seen it and I read it. Superman's real. Well, okay then, Superman's real. I don't know what else to tell you other than...
Why am I smiling?
I don't know.
Why am I smiling? You know what you just told me?
I told you something.
Yeah, you did.
Okay. In my rant, all right.
You know what you told me?
What did I just do?
You told me that that piece of work over there is a comic book.
Is it not? It is a fictitious...
It's a comic book.
Amalgam of different pieces that have been pulled in all together to make up a storyline about a character.
Yeah.
I even explain it when I go through the book of Netanyahu. I said there is an agenda here from day one. If you don't see this, look at it.
Yeah, Kenya. Boom, there it is. It's a comic book.
So how in the world am I going to explain?
Our people are enamored with a fictitious superhero. And they're preaching from a book that is a comic book.
That's why it's literally like we tune it out. It's like it's the pastor gets up every single week and opens up his comic book and says, okay, this is what we're going to learn.
And the saddest part about it is our people do not want to hear it. And it reminds me of the dissertation with come on, who's the guy? It's an Acts. Stephen.
Oh, Deacon Stephen.
It reminds me.
Okay.
It reminds me of Stephen.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when you go in and you pull out the dissertation of Stephen, when Stephen stands up and proclaims to them truth, they just made a lot of noise to block out what he was saying. And he started at the beginning. He didn't start in the middle. He started at the beginning. And he told them everything that they did that offended the Most High.
Yeah. Now we got to deal with this Stephen
and
character.
And then because they didn't want to hear it, they stoned him to death.
Yep.
And he said, lifting his eyes to the Shemaim and said, Father, forgive them because they don't know what they're doing. Now, I'm going to say this. There are a lot of writings that are not scriptural texts authored by the Most High. But we have a lot of what is it? I don't even want to call it philosophy, because it's not philosophy. When truth is being stated, then you have to acknowledge the truth that's being stated.
Yeah.
Separate and apart from the context in which that is stated.
Mm-hmm.
If it's truth, you have to acknowledge the truth that's stated.
Yeah.
And consequently, in the comic book, there's a lot of truth that is stated.
Yeah.
But then you have to watch out, because as soon as the truth is stated, it's shrouded with that which is not truth.
True. Very true. Because even when you read a comic book, you can have a framework of how the story is unfolding that you can relate to. But then when you get to some issues that are in there, you're saying that that's impossible. That just cannot be. You know it emphatically. As soon as you read it, you're just like, okay. But that's because you're rooted and grounded in a foundation and a reality that is not based in some type of fiction. And that's what we're trying to do, is say, hey, the Most High has established all these things over here in the Masoretic text and our text over here. And then this is how the world is established, and this is how the lifestyle works. And then when we read things that are diametrically opposed to that, we immediately recognize it. And that's an instance of what we're doing, is bringing those things to the forefront. So, at any rate, what you got over there?
I'm scrolling through. I'm scrolling through chapter 7 of Acts.
Oh, to find.
No, it's there. It's just a long chapter.
And by the way,
and I mean, if you want to, I mean, as a scholar and as a student, you should read Acts 7 in light of what Stephen has said, because it's a long chapter, because Stephen is going through a chronological history of Israel.
Yeah.
I mean, he starts out by saying, let's go to verse 1. The Kohanim Hakadosh asked, are these accusations true? And Stephen said, now he begins to explain. It begins in verse 1, and oh my goodness, it goes down to verse number 51.
Look at these mitzvot. They're all bold up in here.
All
over the place.
To verse number 59.
Jiminy Christmas.
And when it gets to verse number 59, it says, and as they were stoning him, Stephen called out to Iye Asher Iye.
Mm-hmm.
Now they inject their Yeshua. Lord Yeshua, receive my spirit. Yeah. Then he kneeled down and shouted out, Lord, don't hold this sin against them. With that, he died. Now,
knowing all that, he would have never said that.
He would have never said that.
Never said that.
When you read the dissertation from verse 1 to 50...
You can go to 58.
56. Well, no, because they threw him outside the city and began stoning him. So he ends his dissertation in verse 56. Look, he exclaimed, I see the Shemayim open and the Son of Man standing at the right hand. Well, I don't believe.
Yeah, go up to 53, probably,
yeah,
where we need to stop at 53. 54 down is all. Now you're tangling it up, starting at 54.
Because if I look at the note here is going to take me back to Isaiah 53, 7 and 8. And we know 53, 7 and 8 ain't got nothing to do with no JC.
That's correct.
But I mean, when we read Stephen, we read all of the things that Stephen has stated as to why things are the way they are, and the man got stoned to death for being truthful with a bunch of hard-headed, stiff-necked people.
Mm.
So today, in today's climate, they don't stone you with stones. They stone you with words and try to discredit you as an individual speaking for the Most High by using terminology that refers to you as a heretic.
Sure. Absolutely. Yep.
But I'm not a heretic. I speak at the behest of Yahweh Asher Yahweh,
Mm-hmm.
proclaiming his truth into the ears of whoever hath an ear to hear, let him hear. This has been Rabbi Robert B. Holman Jr.
And the Junior Rabbi Shawn Appleton.
And this has been
Hebrews in Exile. Shalom.